365.
Welcome back to Orlando Matters. I'm Keith Landry, continuing our discussion on the presidential race with the Republican, Eddie Fernandez, and the Democrat, Joe Saunders. Thanks for being here. Okay, so President Obama in Central Florida this weekend. He's making stops in Melbourne and in Kissimmee. How critical will that be for Mr. Obama? Obviously, that Kissimmee appearance is all about rallying the Hispanic base.
Yeah. Here's what we absolutely know, and I think Eddie and I are probably going to agree on. Central Florida is the battleground of the battleground states. If the president can win Central Florida, he can win Florida, and if he can win Florida, he can win this election. And I think that everybody on both sides understands that, and so that's why the stakes are so high in this visit. I think the Republicans have a real problem with Hispanic voters. I think they have a problem with women, and I think that they have a problem with young voters. And to me, those are the constituencies that our president is going to be speaking to. He's going to be trying to convince them that he's been fighting for them for the last 4 years with all the policy changes that we've seen come out of his administration, and that he'll continue to keep fighting for them over the last 4 years. The central theme of his campaign is, trust me, I've been working for you. I got handed the worst mess any president has, certainly in my generation, and I built a floor under that recession, and I'm moving us forward, but you got to trust me with 4 more years.
Okay, Eddie, what do you make of the president going immediately to Florida coming out of the convention?
Joe's absolutely correct. I mean, there's no doubt about it. The I-4 corridor is what is crucial nationally, in fact, because as Joe very well put it, if you win Central Florida, you probably win Florida. If you win Florida, you probably win this election. It's crucial. As far as some of the specific groups, I think we saw a lot of divisiveness from Democrats at this convention. We saw a lot of specific targeting of Hispanics, of women, by both, but I think there was a lot of a divisive tone with Democrats, particularly on class issues, too. I'm not sure I heard classes being mentioned much at the Republican convention, while I heard it repeatedly with the Democrats. Again, the theme being divisiveness and putting one American against the other, and I think that's one of the things I certainly didn't like. And at the same token, surely both parties need to work on Hispanics and on women. And Republicans have historically had a messaging issue. I think while their policies might be palatable, their messaging has been a little off.
You know, this so-called battle over women was apparent at both of the conventions. I think that Mitt Romney's wife, Ann, did something to try to close that gap with her speech.
I think she did a wonderful job at doing that. They may be a wealthy family, but they've been struck by very, very serious problems that many Americans are struck by. And I think she really humanized their family. The stories that were told before Mitt Romney took stage by Olympians, by church members, by neighbors, those stories, there was people crying in the audience. And I think that was crucial to really humanize him and his campaign.
Let's talk about the Hispanic vote a little bit more with the president coming to Kissimmee, clearly targeting the Puerto Rican population in Central Florida. What do we know about which way they are likely to break in November, whether they will go for the president, or if we just don't know yet what the Puerto Rican and Hispanic vote in Central Florida will do?
Well, you know, Keith, actually, that's an interesting point, and for me, I've got some firsthand experience in this. I mean, the district that I'm running in is in East Orange County. 30% of the district is Hispanic, and the vast majority of those families are Puerto Rican. And so from a firsthand account, I can tell you that these families are supporting the president. I mean, we ask that question when we go to doors. We tell them a little bit about me, and then we say, well, how are you feeling about the election? And the sense that I get is that these families are really siding with the president, and I think it has as much to do with the policies that he's turning out as it does the negative space that I think the National Republican Party has been placing themselves in when it comes to the Hispanic community. You've seen in Florida alone for the last 3 years Arizona-style laws introduced by Republican leadership that would racially profile Hispanic and Latino families if it passed. There are policies that are part of the platform that I think disadvantage Hispanic and Latino families, and that is one of the biggest challenges that Mitt Romney is going to have to overcome if he really wants to win that constituency.
Eddie, several polls show that President Obama has what I would call a clear lead over Mitt Romney among Hispanics.
Sure.
How does Mitt Romney close that gap? The clock's ticking now.
Well, one of the major things that need to be understood is that Hispanics, Latinos, we are not homogenous. It is a fiction of the United States government that we are Hispanics and Latinos. At the end of the day, we're all different.
You're Americans.
We're Americans.
Sure.
It is what we are first and foremost. And particularly Puerto Ricans, they are born citizens. They are born with the right to vote. So immigration, from a personal perspective, perspective, while they certainly have empathy, is not as direct of an issue with the Puerto Rican community. With the Cuban community, being that they typically come here as refugees, similarly. So it's one of those things that the Romney campaign really has to micro-target a lot of the communities in Florida particularly and get the right message across. And I think with the Puerto Rican community in Central Florida, one of the crucial things is making them realize that while they may be historically Democrats, the values, the Puerto Rican family values and such are really the values of the Republican Party. And again, it's a messaging issue, and it's making these groups understand that.
But why is that connection not being made so far?
You know, it's a historical issue in a lot of ways. I think the Republican Party, and I'll admit, has failed a lot of that outreach. And as far as, you know, immigration, I think that is a crucial component of it. But as I said on the show last week, immigration is one of those issues that is not being anti-illegal immigration is not being anti-Hispanic. Anti-illegal immigration applies to Asia or Africa or Europe or any other continent. At the end of the day, geographically, we're centered in a place on this planet where obviously the majority of illegal immigrants will come from Hispanic countries. So I think people need to understand that and understand that enforcing the rule of law is not necessarily being anti-Hispanic.
All right, guys, we're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back.